You still remember that moment. You completely broke down. Not in a dramatic movie scene way, not with screaming or shattered glass. It was quieter than that. It was the moment you stared at a message you couldn't reply to. The moment you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize who you was. The moment you realized you were tired, but not sleep tired. You were soul tired. Because you had done everything they told you to. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You forgave people who never apologized. You stayed calm while the chaos inside your head grew louder every day. And in return, you lost parts of yourself, slowly, silently, without even noticing, until one day there was nothing left to lose. They don't tell you that healing doesn't start with hope. It starts with collapse. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to rebuild from the ruins without losing who you are again. You think healing is soft, gentle, like a warm bath or a quiet walk in nature, but it's not. It's brutal. It's violent. It's the ripping away of everything that isn't real. And most of the time, that means almost everything. Your job might go. Your friendships might fade. Your identity, the one you built to survive in this world, will definitely crack. Because healing doesn't polish the mask, it destroys the mask. You start to question everything. Why do I always put others first? Why does rejection hit me like a punch to the chest? Why am I terrified of being truly seen? The answers don't come gently either. They slap you awake. Because somewhere along the line, you were taught to perform, to please, to adapt, to be small enough, quiet enough, good enough to be loved. But healing, it doesn't let you keep pretending. It drags your unspoken wounds into the light, the moments that broke you, the love you never got, the shame you carried that wasn't even yours to begin with. And when that all comes up, grief hits like a tsunami. Because you're not just mourning who you were. You're mourning the years you lost trying to be someone else. You're mourning how long you believed your pain made you weak. But listen closely. You're not falling apart. You're falling back into yourself.
You start noticing things. How you flinch when someone raises their voice, even if they're not angry. How you always say, "I'm fine," even when something inside you is clearly screaming. How you joke about your pain because deep down, you don't believe anyone would sit with the real version of you. That's when you realize healing isn't about becoming better. It's about becoming honest. And honesty comes with a cost. You might lose people. You will lose comfort. You'll outgrow places that once felt like home because they only fit the broken version of you. And here's the part no one wants to hear. The loneliness gets worse before it gets better. You'll be tempted to go back, to shrink again, to accept less, to stay quiet. Because that pain, it's familiar, predictable. You know how to suffer. You don't yet know how to be free. But that's the turning point. When you can sit in the ache without running, when you can let people leave and still not abandon yourself, when the silence doesn't scare you anymore. Because you finally started listening to your own voice. You start craving truth over comfort. You'd rather be alone than fake. You stop performing. You start protecting your peace. And yet, it's messy. You'll cry in parking lots. You'll question your worth at 2 a.m. You'll outgrow your own coping mechanisms, the ones that once saved you, but now just keep you stuck. And you'll grieve all of it. But that grief, that's the price of becoming real.
Eventually, the numbness lifts. Not all at once, just enough to feel again. A little light creeps in between the cracks. The songs you used to skip suddenly make you cry. The food tastes like something again. And the world, though still overwhelming, starts to feel a little less like a war zone. But don't get it twisted. This isn't the fairy tale part. This is where it gets harder. Because now you see. You see the patterns. You see how much you've settled. You see how deeply you've been taught to distrust your own intuition. And the truth? You can't unsee it. You can't go back to pretending. So you start speaking up. You start saying no. You walk away from things you begged for just months ago. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started respecting yourself more. This is the part where people call you selfish, distant, cold, because you no longer bleed for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. They say, you've changed, and you have. You finally stopped abandoning yourself to make others feel okay. That's healing. Not the yoga, not the crystals, not the toxic positivity. It's sitting with your shame until it starts to loosen its grip. It's learning that self-love doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like guilt because no one taught you to choose yourself. You weren't meant to be anyone's emotional punching bag. You weren't born to people-please your way into belonging. You're not here to prove your worth through how much pain you can endure quietly. You're here to feel, to fight, to remember who the hell you were before the world told you who to be.
And the most terrifying part? There's no applause for this, no finish line, no one clapping when you finally set that boundary, cut off that toxic relationship, or cry yourself to sleep instead of bottling it up. No, healing is invisible. It's choosing the harder path in a world begging you to stay broken. It's walking away when your body's shaking with fear. It's learning to trust your gut, the one you silenced for years just to keep the peace. Sometimes healing means sitting in a room full of people and realizing you don't belong there anymore. Sometimes it means looking someone you love in the eyes and saying, I can't do this, not like this. And sometimes it just means waking up, making your bed, and choosing not to give up today. That's the thing they don't prepare you for. It's not one big breakthrough. It's not this dramatic, cinematic rise from the ashes. It's small, quiet revolutions. It's deleting that number. It's sitting with your rage instead of shaming it. It's holding yourself through the ugly, the messy, the unhealed, because you finally realized you are not broken. You were betrayed by a world that told you to dim your light, by systems that said sensitivity was weakness, by people who couldn't love you unless you made yourself smaller. But you're here to be whole. And wholeness doesn't look like perfection. It looks like contradiction. It looks like crying and laughing in the same hour, like being confident one minute and terrified the next, like healing and still having days you fall apart. Because healing doesn't erase your scars. It teaches you how to wear them without shame. It teaches you how to carry your past, not as a weight, but as a reminder of what you survived. You stop trying to be fixed. You start learning how to live with all the versions of you that once felt unlovable. The anxious kid who couldn't speak in groups. The teenager who tried too hard to be liked. The adult who faked strength while quietly falling apart. You start holding them gently because none of them were wrong. They were just trying to cope, trying to survive. And they did. You did. Now, you get to do more than survive. Now, you get to choose. You get to choose relationships that don't drain you. You get to choose rest, even when the world screams for hustle.
You get to choose boundaries, even when they cost you connection. You get to choose truth, even when it's lonely. And you'll lose people. You'll lose places. You'll lose comfort. But you'll find you. And that's worth everything. You don't need the world to understand you. You need to understand yourself